We're just going to give people an extra minute or two before we get started tonight. We'll get started in 1 minute. About 35 seconds. Just a few more seconds. All right, everyone. Good evening. I'm happy that you're able to join us on this Thursday, Juneteenth, and for the opportunity to share some good stuff with you. As you know, if you've attended our virtual town halls in the past, we try and share a wide array of information with you. And it seems that with each passing month, there's just more and more stuff going on. We want to try and make certain that what we talk about this evening is beneficial to you and is current information. And is also perhaps information you haven't had before, is kind of new information. So along those lines, I want to make certain that we're giving you information that will help you in your own understanding about wildfire resilience, defensible space, home hardening, what's going on in policy and law. And our team is very, very happy to be able to share some good stuff with you tonight, as well as what's happening this coming weekend. So overall, just as some housekeeping stuff, one of the things to remember is that we use QR codes to share some information. So if you see QR codes on the screen, if you've got a mobile phone, rather than having to type a URL in or do anything like that, all you need to do is point your camera at the QR code. Just take a picture. You don't even need to take action of it there. But if you want to, you can actually highlight it. The link will show up, and then you'll be able to go to the particular link. And of course, one of the most important ones to go to is our wildfire website, wildfirela.org. That is the website for the Regional Fire Safe Council for Los Angeles County, which is MySafe LA. And so there's a lot of information in there. We're actually going to have a lot of changes to the website over the next couple of months that are going to be very beneficial if you're a fire safe counselor or a Firewise site, or you're interested in becoming part of one. So with that in mind, we do record these events for educational use. We're on the same team, so we're not trying to be adversarial. So remember, when we're asking questions, or even if we have a different opinion, which is great, let's remember to be nice. So our agenda tonight, a couple opening remarks. You'll get an update on what the Wildfire Alliance, which is the partnership between LA City Fire, MySafe LA, the LAPD, and several others is. Our special guest tonight is retired Fire Chief Silvio Lanzas, who's going to talk about fire retardants. I'll be giving you a report from the NFPA conference. We'll talk about Wildfire Day LA this coming weekend. And we'll talk about insurance. There's just a lot going on in all of these spaces and a lot to share. So thanks for being here and bearing with us. And I want to make sure that everyone knows we've been working hard on creating a new environment so that we can share these town halls and do it with more than audio, do it with video as well. And they're going to start being available next week. So we've got everything kind of set up, and now we just need to populate them with the stuff so you'll be able to look backwards at previous meetings. Now we have the first year and a half in audio, but the last 9 months or so we haven't actually posted, and they're perhaps the most important 9 months. So we'll be doing that, and hopefully it'll make a lot of sense and be helpful to everyone. All right, let's move on with a Wildfire Alliance update. So I want to turn it over to Captain Dante Cornejo from our shop, who'll give you an update on what's going on in the world of MySafe LA and the Regional Fire Safe Council. Dante.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. Good evening. So within our shop, it's been a relatively busy June so far. We've been working really diligently and really hard and very closely with several communities within the LA region. I'd like to kind of give a shout out to the Hollywood Hills Fire Safe Council. We've helped them get established, and they actually had their first self-run event not this past weekend, but the weekend before, within the Hollywood Hills, and it was a very successful event, and they brought a lot of community together, a lot of resources. So give them a big round of applause, and it was a pretty well-run event. We've also been attending several different things. We attended the IBHS demonstration this past weekend in Anaheim. And for those of you who are not familiar with the IBHS, they have a very famous video on YouTube of them simulating an ember storm with two structures side by side. One structure is a normal structure or that you would find around the area with some potential wood siding, single pane windows, mulch around the front, some vegetation, Italian cypress nearby with a wood gate connecting to the structure. And then directly next to it is a house that has been hardened, and also has a full defensible spacing, with no wooden attachments. It's metal fencing, fully non-combustible siding, dual pane windows, and a full effective zone 0. And it was a pretty good demonstration, simulating also an ember storm as well in Anaheim. And as you'd expect, the house that was not fully hardened ended up being fully involved within about 10 to 15 minutes after the fire started. We've also been attending different meetings, such as especially in regards to Zone 0. The California Board of Forestry had a Zone 0 meeting this past Monday, where we sat in on and listened in terms of what the new updates, in terms of what is currently being discussed with the current Zone 0 mandate and enforcement that is supposedly to be effective by 1/1 of 26 of this next year, so January 1st, 2026. And we've also been sitting on other meetings as well within different organizations, and just been meeting with a lot of different communities. And we've also had a new community within the LA region just get certified as a NFPA Firewise community, and that is the Hollywood Dell community. So I'd like to give them a quick shout out as well. These communities have been working very hard and to gain the education in order to reduce their own risk, and they're being very effective. And that's been kind of our June so far, and we're looking forward to continuing this effort into these hotter months as we get into July and August. Pass it back on over to you, David. Thank you.
Thanks very much. All right. So it's time to introduce our special guest. Chief Silvio Lanzas will tell you a little bit about his career, but most recently, he was the fire chief for the city of Glendale. And now he is a private entrepreneur, and his expertise in wildland firefighting and in mitigation is important. So I want to turn it over to Chief Lanzas. You won't recognize him on the screen from his photograph here, because since he's no longer wearing a uniform, he's wearing a beard. But other than that, he's the same guy. So Chief, I'm going to stop my share, and you can now share your screen.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you having me today, and I appreciate being here with all of these Firewise community members. I'm going to share quickly the opening to, oh boy, why does
There you
that work?
go. You're doing good. We can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. This is just our website. So my name is Silvio Lanzas, as Dave said. I retired in 2022 as the fire chief in the city of Glendale. My role there when I left was the fire chief and deputy city manager. I spent 30 years in the California Fire Service, about 25 years with Cal Fire, primarily in Riverside County, rising to the ranks of assistant chief, and then went to Glendale where I finished off my career. I now am the COO for MFire. MFire is a fire chemical company that's based in Los Angeles. We're based in Torrance, California. We manufacture our fire inhibitor there in Torrance, all made in the USA, and we service around the world. So the most most extinguishing agents that you see out there today, the pink stuff that you see dropped out of airplanes and those the like, are short-term retardants. They work for basically while the retardant is wet. The retardant dries, a fire will basically run through it like it wasn't there. Ours, the science, the technology behind it is a little bit different. Our fire inhibitor is completely organic, made from food grade material. There's nothing harmful in it whatsoever. You could technically drink it, just doesn't taste very good. I speak from experience there. When we apply our product, we focus on prevention. So we don't use it to extinguish. You could use it to extinguish fires, but we focus on a pre-fire footprint. We apply our product around your home, around your community, around your business, and it lasts up to 6 months with and can withstand about 2 inches of rain. That's pretty significant in comparison to most other retardants. Um, the main thing that sets us apart is our organic nature. I am going to share another screen here real quick and play a quick video where I essentially take our product and fireproof a napkin. So I'm going to show this. Can you see that, Dave?
Yep. Yeah. Looks
Okay.
good. Looks
All
blurry.
right. Yeah, it'll clear up then.
There you go.
But can you hear it or no?
Cannot hear it.
No, it doesn't matter. You don't need to hear it technically.
But you could describe what's going on. You're taking a paper towel and
Yeah, it should kind of walk through it, but basically what I'm doing here is I'm misting our product. It looks and acts like water as you see it in the bottle there. It has a mil thickness or a centipoise of about 4 to 6, which water is 1. Again, different than most. Most are a gel-like retardant with a consistency of anything between 150 and 400. So ours can be sprayed out of essentially anything as easy as a squirt bottle, garden hose, fire hose. We apply it using a fire truck and fire hose. I'm now applying a fan to the napkin just to speed up the drying process. Again, our product does work wet, but it works better dry. The crystalline chemistry behind it is what really sets us apart from any others. Doesn't leave a sheen, doesn't leave a stickiness, doesn't leave anything on what it's applied to. So that was a 45-minute drying period that I had that fan on it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show how flammable a paper napkin is, which I'm sure all of you know. But just to illustrate how flammable it is, I barely touch it with the torch and the napkin catches fire. And then I will go through holding a torch to our napkin. So as you can see, very flammable. Doesn't need much to catch a paper towel on fire.
all right, here we go.
That's a torch being held to it, and I'll turn the napkin around here at the end just to show that it doesn't even penetrate the back of the napkin. The strength of the product is incredible. The inventor invented it 30 years ago in the UK and perfected it in wildfire prevention across Asia. He used it in Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Saudi Arabia. As you could tell, the back of the napkin's not even singed. And then the bottom part where I didn't apply it to, I'll burn just to show where it stops at the line of demarcation where it was applied.
And it
Really
extinguishes
pretty
itself.
fascinating
It
product.
extinguishes itself when it gets to where you have sprayed it on.
Right. When it gets to the line, it puts itself out. So, again, our product, we're all made in the USA. The main difference between us and the others is that we have no salt, we have no harmful chemicals when applied, nor when fire reaches it or touches it. There's no ozone depleting components. It works incredibly in wildfire. So the owner of the company, he really is focused on pre-fire. He doesn't really want to use it once a fire starts. His main focus is applying it to communities, homes, infrastructure. We're working currently on a project that hopefully will come to fruition with Edison, where we will spray around their power poles to hopefully prevent those from ever catching fire and or causing a fire. We have several other projects that we're working on, one with the FDNY, where we're looking to replace the New York City Fire Department, where we're looking to replace the water in their pressurized water cans with our product because of the increased stopping power. And that's kind of a short intro into our company, our product. I'm open for questions. We do apply. We're very busy in Southern California. We also use the chemical that we use the inhibitor also to apply on wood framing during construction. So we apply it to apartments while they're being built to keep them from burning. And we do that across the country. We have a whole crew of folks that we fly around the US to do that. All of our applicator, we do not subcontract out, so everybody is trained by us. We come out, as I mentioned, with our fire truck and apply it to your home, to your community, to a group of homes. And we do a lot of work we've done a lot of work in Brentwood, a lot of work in the Newport Coast, a lot of work in the Hollywood Hills, San Bernardino County Mountains. What's the question there? So increased stopping power when wet. Yes, increased stopping power. So it basically takes your water and multiplies it by 7 times. So if you have 10 gallons of water, it's the equivalent of 70 gallons of water.
And can you talk a little bit about the cost? Because one of the issues with some of the retardants that have salt and metal and stuff in them is that they're A, very expensive to apply, and B, they're very expensive to remove. So
Yes.
you could talk a little bit about just kind of a cost model, and then we'll follow up with a couple of other questions.
Yeah, Dave, thank you for asking that. So yes, our product, thankfully, you apply it, basically set it and forget it. So we come in, we apply it, and you don't ever have to do anything. You don't have to wash it off. It doesn't leave a color. It doesn't leave a coating. It's safe around animals, around plants. We've done all the testing for water. We have a UL Green Gold Guard certification, which is the highest certification you could have for environmental health. The cost, I'm going to work with the owner on extending a discount to anyone who reaches out to us and is part of a Fire Safe Council or a Firewise community to extend a discount. But our price right now is basically 40 cents a square foot. So when you look at a home, what I try to tell people, every home is different. If you have a 1,500 square foot home and you're on a 7,000 square foot lot, that's a pretty average size lot in Southern California. The cost to apply most of those, and please don't hold this to me because every home is different, right? Like my home, for example, where I'm at right now, I have a lot of concrete around my home. So obviously we wouldn't treat the concrete around the home. But it's about $1,000 to $1,500 for a home, a 1,500 square foot home on a 7,000 square foot lot with medium brush around it. We treat everything combustible around the home within 100 feet. So trees, shrubs, organic, ornamental vegetation, your wood fencing, any wood siding that you have, everything that could burn, we treat and basically render it fireproof. The one thing that will tell you is because it is organic and because it is biodegradable, if for some, like right now is our busy period. Right now is when we're trying to apply and get ahead of fire season. If for some reason we have a wet summer, anything more than 2 inches, we would need to reapply. But what I tell people there is if we're getting to August and September and we've had 2 inches of rain, then your fire threat goes down, right? You're not as vulnerable if we're getting that much rain during a summertime. So there is a trade-off whether or not we need to reapply again. It's usually we're going to be okay, but if we have a significant rain season during the summer, then we will come back out and reapply.
So we will, a couple people were asking about contact information. We will have
Yes.
contact information in the wildfirela.org website. You can also go to M-Fire Technologies website. And Sylvia, why don't you share what that link is in the chat when you get a chance?
Will do.
And then, people are asking stuff about like, what would you apply it to? Would you apply it to just wood, or would you apply it to glass, or what would you apply it to or not apply it to?
So Dave, we apply it to, we try not to apply it to the home itself. We apply it to everything combustible around the home.
Right.
And so anything porous, it will work on. So it won't work on glass. It won't work on marble. It won't work on metal, but painted wood, wood fencing, obviously anything, vegetation, grass, brush. We don't apply it to your green grass because your green grass isn't going to burn. It's not going to start a fire, cause a fire, or propagate fire from an ember. But anything that's exposed. If we come to your home and you live in a hillside community, and you're exposed on the top of a canyon, top of a chute. Part of the service is me coming to your home and doing a site inspection with you. I walk around with you and talk to you about home hardening tips, things you can do to make your home or your property more fire safe. That's all included in the cost for us coming and doing the application. And there was one thought that I was going to say that I just lost my train of thought there on the service. If there's another question, maybe I'll come back to it. Maybe it'll come back to me. I'm getting old, Dave.
We're all in the same boat. Does anyone else have any questions that they would like to ask? You can raise your hand if you want, and someone will ask you that. We have one new message down below. It's an interesting question. Has anyone received a discount on their homeowner's insurance because they're using this product?
Not in the wildfire aspect. We are talking to some insurance companies currently, but in our construction application that I was mentioning in the apartment application, we have quite a few insurance carriers that are offering discounts. We have several that will not insure a project unless they use our product. We've done about 450 projects in the multifamily setting. And so we're working with some insurance companies. We know that insurance is a big deal in California. As I sit here tonight, I'm very frustrated. My insurance for my cabin home in Lake Arrowhead was just canceled for no reason, and I'm battling to find a new one.
Right. And by the way, this coming Sunday, one of our classes involves an insurance broker from WOW Insurance who has figured out some formulas to ensure that people who live in places like you do, Chief, are able to get insurance. And he's very, very knowledgeable. So for people that are planning on coming, and we'll talk about this a little bit later tonight, that's going to be a very popular class, I think.
That's going on Sunday, Dave?
It's on Sunday, yeah.
And also, I'll just plug that we're going to be at the event on Sunday as well, too. I'll be doing this napkin demonstration every hour on the hour out there. We'll have a few members of our team out there. So if anybody wants to come by and talk to me and have questions, I will be there. I'm putting the website and my email into the chat now.
And Lisa asks if it should be applied to trees. And before you jump in there, Chief, I would simply say that most well-established trees outside of leaves and small branches are not likely to burn. If you take a look at actually behind me, the screen behind me is from the Palisades on the 8th of July. And although thousands of homes were destroyed, most of the trees are still there.
If a building is pre-treated, how long does that treatment last? I think Patricia's asking for the wood applied. So in the wood applied setting, we basically follow the framer. So as we're spraying the wood while the project is being built, as soon as the second floor is added, we spray the first floor. So it stays on that building for the life of the building because it's never exposed to the elements. It's never exposed to the sun. It's never exposed to rain. It doesn't have to be capped off, but we apply it as the framer removes his bracing.
Yeah, it's pretty important stuff. Chief, that's a great demo. I think most people are pretty impressed with what they're seeing. And of course, we want to make sure that we're able to expose it to as many people as possible. I think it'd be really terrific for us to do a demo similar to the IBHS demo. So we should be talking about that. We'll talk about the IBHS demo in more detail a little bit later tonight. Chief, if you're going to stick around for a little bit, we'll give people an opportunity if they think of something. We have another separate Q&A near the end. Our presentations never go more than 90 minutes. So
I plan to stick around, Dave. I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate the time, and I plan to stick around. I'm going to go through the questions and try to answer some of those while I'm on there too. I'll just reply in the chat to my answers while you're going through your meeting. Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. So hopefully everyone can see my screen again now. And it's time for us to talk a little bit about the National Fire Protection Association conference, which just completed in Las Vegas, which I was a part of. And it was a very interesting couple of days. Generally speaking, the NFPA has been known for over 100 years to kind of set policy. They have an alignment with the insurance industry, but also with the fire industry in terms of the fire service overall. In fact, it would be interesting, since we have Chief Lanzis with us, when you're with CAL FIRE and when you're with Glendale, how did you guys look at NFPA policy? You're muted, Chief. Chief, you're muted. Sorry, Chief, you're muted. There you go.
Dave, NFPA was the guidebook for almost everything we did in Glendale and in CAL FIRE. We looked at it as our Bible for what we did and how we did. It was kind of the benchmark for everything from a policy standpoint. Went back to the NFPA.
Right. So thank you, Chief. This was no different. What I can tell you is that 2 years ago, the wildfire team within the NFPA was 2 people, and one of them was their webmaster. So they are now at 9 members, and they may add 3 or 4 more. This shows an increased level of interest in wildfire specifically. One of the things that I participated in was an invitation-only discussion that included subject matter experts from multiple states, state fire marshals, some folks from the nonprofit world, and the expertise within the NFPA. The Firewise USA initiative that we're very actively engaged in relative to developing these sites, there are 1,200 of them in California, out of about 9,000 nationwide. Many, many more in California than anywhere else. And just in the last year, more than 350 new Firewise sites. Why is this important? Well, first of all, it's a community working together to reduce the threat from wildfire as a group. If you have an individual home that takes steps, but the neighbors on either side don't, then there's still significant risk of ignition in the event of a wind-driven fire. So the NFPA is really interested in hearing from everyone about what can be done. And we had a robust discussion I might have been a little too verbose in some of my opinions about things. Um, I was very clear that the idea that zone zero is a one size fits all is not appropriate, that homeowners shouldn't be punished for choosing to live where they do, and that there should be a nationwide policy relative to both the education of homeowners and the responsibility that they need to undertake, as well as creating guidance for fire departments, such as Chief Lanzis just mentioned. Right now, there's this kind of gap between what fire departments are looking at relative to firefighter safety, which is obviously essential, and what needs to happen relative to the community. So even though there's this FireWise environment and it's very capable, it doesn't really help people move things forward the way that we'd like to see. So one of the things we're going to be developing this summer is a methodology that will allow people to pursue their application process and preparation for becoming FireWise or a Fire Safe Council online. And once they're ready, they will have their own account. And as they add homes and as they add successes, they'll be able to manage all of that online in their own account. So it's as if you have a whole series of private Facebook groups, if you want to think about it that way. The FireWise portal that you use to apply is being evolved. It won't let you make mistakes. It'll calculate things for you. It's a really big improvement. And the NFP understands that California is unlike any other state in the United States. So I think that's very, very essential as well. So there's a good opportunity for expanded collaboration. I think all of the discussions were very useful. I hosted an evening meeting and dinner with the entire wildfire team, and we talked about a lot of the gaps and roadblocks and issues, not only at the state level, but at the federal level. And, I had a good conversation with the fire marshal for the state of Oregon. They just lost 250 homes 4 days ago. In Colorado, they have the same kind of challenges with insurance. So it's really good to be learning about what other communities, whether it be a state or a local community, are dealing with, because when we get everyone together and we all sing from the same sheet of music, that's when we can affect change. And it's very, very important to us that we're able to actually not just listen to what people say and deal with it like, oh, well, that's how it is, but to actually give them appropriate feedback. And so we're working hard to do that. So having said that, here's a quick Zone Zero update. As many of you may know, we created a letter to the Board of Forestry as a representation of many of the homeowners in Southern California. We had hundreds and hundreds of people, nearly 800 people, sign the document that we created and sent it. If you're interested in reading it, your signature won't work any longer, but you can certainly read the letter by going to wildfirela.org/letter. And take a look at it. But we were really happy that we sent that letter. I think it really establishes some important parameters, the close setbacks and the density in Southern California versus wider setbacks and more property in Northern California. Of course, it's not 100%, but there is a distinction. The very high fire severity zone maps that CAL FIRE has come out with, they confuse a lot of people. So we want to help try and create clarity for that. We have been very, very busy in terms of our stakeholder discussions, right? So just over the last 6 weeks, we met with both of our U.S. senators, with multiple state senator and assembly people. In fact, we'll have some assembly people on Sunday at our event. The state fire marshal, the CAL FIRE head of wildfire mitigation, the head of Cal OES's wildfire authority, as well as local deputy fire chiefs for LA City Fire and multiple other fire agencies. So that's what's happened in the last 6 weeks, as well as our discussions and our meetings that Dante and I and others have held with homeowners like you, hearing your feedback, hearing your concerns. But as we move forward, we've got some really important things lined up. We're going to be meeting with the chief scientists at the IBHS. I think it's very, very important that we talk more about that demonstration. The image that you see here is the unhardened home burning. And for me, their demonstration is not effective. It's effective visually, but it's not scientific. And if you have one home that absolutely won't burn and one home that absolutely will, it's a foregone conclusion about what happens. So one of the things that I'd like to be able to see is two homes that are unhardened, two homes that have single pane glass, that have an older style roof, that have single pane windows, that have plastic gutters for rain. But to have one home have a zone zero effectively in place, and one home to not have a zone zero effectively in place, and to do a demonstration about the effectiveness of zone zero. Because I think that's what really is important to people to understand, because what we hear in these meetings is, what about this plant? Or what about that plant? Or what about this tree? Or what about the height of the tree? Or what about a specific type of wood? All of a sudden, we're getting into the weeds, so to speak, of all of these different combinations, which ultimately don't necessarily apply to the science that we're trying to get to. And when I brought this up in the wildfire meeting with the NFPA, the chief scientist for the IBHS said, I agree with you. We need to figure out how to evolve this further. So I think there's an opportunity for us to create some progress. We're also building a new home hardening film with, we started this project with Cal OES with Chief Lopez, but now the fire marshal, Chief Berlant, he's going to be a part of it as well. So we're gathering some additional capabilities. We're going to have homeowners who survived the fires in it, homeowners who've hardened their homes or who don't want to harden their homes. So we're building an educational product that hopefully will help people really understand the effectiveness of defending the structure, because the structure is the fuel. There are people in the Palisades who lost their home even though it was well defended from a vegetation point of view and from a construction point of view, but they were in such a hurry to leave that they left a window open. And that's all you need to allow embers to get into the house, and then the home burns from the inside out. By the way, some breaking news: Berkeley today advanced their Ember initiative. And for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's like the state's 3094 on steroids. So it mandates nothing flammable and no vegetation in zone zero, and will go into effect, if it's signed off on, which the city anticipates it will be, on January the 1. And the Berkeley Fire Department will be issuing citations and inspecting. So it's draconian. There's a lot of pushback and threats of legal challenges. But the fact that the city has taken this action right now is a demonstration that there are a lot of people in government who believe that zone zero should be draconian and that they don't trust homeowners to make the right decisions. And I think that's an extremely important thing as we move forward. Okay, Sunday. Our Autry Museum Wildfire LA Day is coming up in just a few days. Runs from 11 a.m. to 3:30 in the afternoon. There's a whole series of classes for adults. It's going to be a terrific day. Free lunch for everyone that visits vendors like MFire or takes classes. There's a whole kids fire safety camp. So if you got kids and you bring them, there's a whole series of exercises they'll be able to go through. They get all kinds of swag to take home with them. And of course, they get fed as well. One of our classes is about how to create an NFPA Firewise community, and the NFPA's West Coast rep is going to be at the event, and we'll talk to everyone and be available for them. So a lot of thousands of dollars in prizes, all kinds of stuff going on. This is not like any wildfire fair that you may have seen in the past. We're very excited about it. The Autry is a remarkable place to have an event like this. There'll be free admission to the museum as well. So come and spend some time with us, get fed, and then check out the Autry. Couldn't be a more entertaining kind of a Sunday. And we're very, very excited about the kind of feedback that we get at these events. This image is from an event we did a couple of weeks ago, and people are very, very engaged in the work that we're doing and providing. Let's move on to an insurance update. And if you've got questions or issues, feel free to put them in the chat or prepare them, because we'll have a Q&A opportunity in a few minutes. I'm moving through this as quickly as I can. We could probably be done by 8 o'clock tonight, so I'm happy about that as well. So for those of you that have been dealing with some of the challenges related to insurance or have heard about them, you should know that the Department of Insurance has formally opened an investigation into State Farm. State Farm is the largest provider of wildfire insurance in the state of California. And this investigation is a market conduct examination. It's a formal review to figure out what their practices are and if they're doing the right thing or not. The state has conducted these examinations in the past. In fact, one with State Farm. And at the end of it, additional monies had to be paid out. So this investigation is going to focus on how it's handled claims from the Palisades and Eaton wildfires. There have been hundreds and hundreds of complaints regarding State Farm, and they're not just limited to adjuster assignments and record keeping, but also the timing of payouts. I can tell you that the home I used to live in was destroyed in the Palisades fire. And my dad, who lives just adjacent right across the canyon from Chautauqua, was evacuated, and the home was damaged with smoke damage. It was built in 1995, so it didn't have issues like asbestos and so on. But it took State Farm 4 months before they finally found a vendor who would clean out all of the smoke damage. And my dad moved back into his house about just a couple weeks ago. But they paid for everything immediately. They paid for the hotel, for all the meals, for fuel, for everything related to keeping my dad and his wife, my stepmom, safe and in a place. And meanwhile, I'm talking to folks in Altadena who were told they had just a couple of weeks in a hotel and then they were on their own. So there's a discrepancy between what's happening in the two cities. As you know, State Farm just got a 17% emergency rate increase, and they want that to jump up to 30%, and that hearing will be in October. So before then, we need to make certain that, people are getting paid and that they're not being punished for where they live or the age of their home. So State Farm has said that they're going to cooperate with the investigation. They've paid out more than $2 billion in claims so far, and they think they're going to get to $6 billion. So they're very aggressive about talking about the things that they've been doing. And this is just one example. Allstate is saying they're going to have $1 billion in losses as another example. So the insurance thing is a big deal. But what does this mean for you guys? Well, there's the potential you're going to get more money. If you've been affected by the fires, the end of this investigation may reveal that you need to be paid better. Hopefully, there will be a more streamlined method of handling claims so that everyone has the same experience. And I would remind everyone that the Commissioner, Ricardo Lara, has been very outspoken about you need to file complaints. If you're not happy, don't sit there and just complain to your family or your attorney. File a complaint. The more complaints that they receive, the more likely they are to be able to use that data to figure out what's really going on. And I would also encourage everyone to go check out our podcast, Rebuild LA. The most recent interview, it's a 42-minute interview with Joy Chen, who's one of the founders of the Altadena Survivors Network. She's really the person who pushed the commissioner over the edge to conduct an investigation. And this podcast is actually chock full of information about what's going on with insurance carriers. So I would encourage you to scan the QR code or just go to our website and go to the podcast page or go to any podcast streaming service. I think we're on a dozen of them, Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Deezer and all of those, and listen in particular to this most recent episode because it's really, really important information and it's very, very interesting as well. You can also scan this QR code, which is the new sustainable insurance strategy by the Department of Insurance. You may find it kind of interesting in terms of what's going on. There's so much that is taking place. And so I think if you have questions about it, don't hesitate to ask us or ask the insurance department directly. Keep in mind, the State Department of Insurance will also be at our event on Sunday. They will have a booth where you can just talk to them about anything, and they will also be providing a class. And for anyone who was affected, you cannot be dropped by our insurance carrier for 1 year, and there's actually an effort underway to extend that to 2 years. So there's some opportunity about what's going on. So before we get into what's next, let's take a quick look through on questions. So I'm seeing that people spend a lot of money on their fences. the idea of cost for homeowners, it is a real issue. And one of the things that we're doing is we're working with the governor's office on a grant initiative. It'll be a pilot program if it comes to fruition in both Altadena and the Palisades to help people pay for their home hardening. I'd also mention that Senator Schiff, one of our two U.S. senators, has a new act called the Firewall Act, which will provide up to $25,000 in tax credit. So money that comes off your tax bill, that is a 50% match for anything that you spend. Other people are asking in here about vendors for home hardening, protecting vents and that sort of thing. We're going to have a bunch of people who provide those services on Sunday at our event. We can't really provide specific endorsements, but we can provide information. So if you go to wildfirela.org and you go to the community tab, there's a whole series of providers that are listed there that you can reach out to. You do have to have the money to shell out to get a tax credit. So one of the things that's important here is, and it's like the worst news that we share in any of our meetings, is that we live in a different world than we did 20 years ago. And for people that bought their home in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, and they've aged in place and they love where they live, unfortunately, your world is different. You cannot rely on a fire department to save your home. It's not going to happen. If there's a wind-driven conflagration that takes place. Remember, Palisades and Eaton were not wildfires. They started as wildfires, but they became urban fires. That's a house-to-house ignition where even with good home hardening and defensible space, the structures are likely to be destroyed or at least damaged. And, you know, if you're going to reduce the chances of that happening, you have to spend money. And if you are unable to do so, then you've got some choices to make, and one of them is to move. Most structures that are within the wildland urban interface, within our canyons, have increased dramatically in value. So the opportunity to sell your property and buy another one cash and not have to worry about payments is pretty good. This is not what people want to do, though. So we're not telling you need to move. But what we are saying is that if you're going to stay, you need to invest in your safety. And a good question about the Firewall Act, the question is it for people who lost their houses? It is not specifically for people who've lost their houses. It's for people who've been impacted. So that includes evacuation. And one of the great things about the Firewall Act is it actually goes back 10 years. So assuming it's in law, it's enacted into law, and it does have bipartisan support. It'll go all the way back to 2017 at least. So if you were impacted by the Woolsey fire or the Camp Fire or the Getty fire or anything else, you would qualify for any money that you spent back then to improve your home, and you could get a tax credit now. So although you do have to spend money to look out for your home, a couple things to remember. One, it's going to add to the value of your home. And two, there's a big difference between spending $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 to upgrade the defense of your home as opposed to losing your home in a wildfire. And the home has a $3 million value, but it's only insured for $1 million. And then you're upside down $2 million. So there's a lot of things to think about. We're going to spend more time helping people through this process and talking about it. And you know, there's so much that you can do related to hardening your home that doesn't cost a lot of money. We talked about that a little bit last month. We're going to talk about it on Sunday, and we're going to talk about it in our next Fire Safe Council meeting. So having looked through all of these questions, if there are people that have questions that they would like to ask us directly, we'll get to that in just a second. It's not a grant to upgrade your home's fire protection. So that's an important thing to note. Someone has asked about that. So what's next? Let's deal with that before we get to Q&A. And what's next is our next virtual town hall. We're going to skip the month of July. We're going to go to August the 21st. And the reason is that during the coming 6 weeks, I'm going to be traveling back to Washington, D.C. We're going to be meeting with the IBHS. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be taking place, and we want to be able to have really good answers for you at our next meeting, including some discussion about evacuation planning, what the weather predictions are going to be for the fall in terms of wildfire risk, and how to get paid, how to make sure that your insurance company is going to pay you, because everyone deserves to get paid if they have a loss. So with that in mind, if people have questions, raise your hand, and our team or Chief Lanzis, who's still anybody has a question, we'll try and answer it for you. Anyone, questions?
Please use the raise your hand function so we can call on you guys. Lisa H, please unmute.
Yeah, so if you use these fire retardant materials, do you have to, can you self-apply, or do you have to have somebody else apply it? And I guess you have to do it twice a year. I can't even believe this, twice a year. But what if you have, like, it's mostly your fence is fire retardant, like it's like a cement wall or something like that, but it has some like ignitable elements in it. Like, can't you just kind of spot treat those?
Chief?
Yeah, Lisa, yes. A couple questions you asked there. Number one, we do not subcontract, so we apply our product ourselves, and the reason for that is we want to make sure that it's applied correctly. When I come to your home, because part of my role is to come to your home and do the walk, we could look at your fence and look at your wall that you're talking about. It sounds like it may have some wood within some block material or something like that, like a decorative wood trim. We could look at that. Usually that's not a big fire starter or spreader, but we could look at how that wood is laid in there, and definitely we could spot treat it.
Okay. And do you generally find that pressure treated wood is as fire retardant, or do you think that's also very flammable?
No, pressure treated wood is still flammable, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Pat? Pat, you're muted.
David, thank you for everything you do. Good luck in Washington. A very quick reminder, the 4th of July is in about 2 weeks. Get the dead vegetation away from around your house. Be alert, maybe have a hose around. I think we need to remember the Palisades fire may have been started by a New Year's Eve illegal fireworks thing that got underground. So just a very quick reminder.
Appreciate that, Pat. One thing that we should note is that on January the 1st, there was a small wildfire in the Palisades that was started by fireworks. And the fire on the 7th of January started in a nearby area, but it's undetermined as to what the actual cause was. It's right by a hiking trail, so there could have been any number of reasons for the start. There are multiple investigations underway, and I think we're going to hear the first after action report within the coming 6 weeks. So we should get more information on what the actual cause is, but we should be careful about assuming what the cause was. So having said that, anybody else have questions before we're good for the night? Looks like we got one or two others.
John, is that your hand up? If so, you are muted, John. I'm gonna.
Still muted, John.
What's the name of your company, Silvio? What's the name of the company, Silvio?
M-Fire.
M-Fire Technologies. I put the link to the website and my email in the chat.
Like M and then fire?
Yes, sir.
M-Fire.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Patricia, your hand was first, and then Karen will go to you.
Yeah, just how long does the application process take? Is it hours or is it
It,
a day or is
oh
it?
yeah, no. Our guys come in. We'll do the site inspection. We'll get you scheduled. An average home, again, the one that I mentioned earlier, 1,500 square foot on a 7,000 square foot lot, take us a couple hours. We'll be in and out of your hair. Larger properties obviously take a little bit longer. If we're talking, a 10-acre property, we're going to be there, throughout the day. But most of your normal homes, we're in and out in a couple hours.
And how do you apply the product?
We use a fire truck and fire hoses.
Okay, great.
Karen,
Thank you. My question, can you hear me?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, thank you. My question has to do with this zero zone. Right now I'm in LA City, and last year was the first year in almost 40 years that my entire neighborhood was cited. And we had X amount of time to, cut back trees and things. And the information on the website, as well as in the letters we get sent, are very, very confusing. There's things about fruit trees, there's things about ornamental trees, and things are very contradictory. And what it sounds like, we got a letter saying everything has to be 5 feet. Then another letter contradicting that, saying, no, the law hasn't changed yet because, as you mentioned a little bit, every situation is a little unique. And it seems almost as if the city, because I'm in the city, as well as the county, they want people to denude their property. I don't want dirt. I'm not a stupid person, and I don't want my house to burn, and I try to make sure it's as hardened as I can make it. And the idea of having just dirt all around my house is not something I want.
Of course, it's something
I can understand, as I say, I don't want my house burning. It's my most, important investment, and I have to live someplace. But you suppose the letters seem to indicate people would have 3 years to comply.
So a couple things, I'm going to mention a couple things, then Dante can give you a little bit more information. He heads up our inspection team. But kind of from an umbrella, looking down 20,000 feet, looking down, the original law related to zone 0, 1, and 2 was implemented in 2020 as at the state level, but it has never been enforced because the fire marshal has determined that it wouldn't be enforceable and that people would push back. After the January fires, the governor instructed the Department of Forestry and Fire Protection and CAL FIRE to collaborate, although the Department of Forestry has the final say in how the law should be implemented. And in January of 2026, on the 1st, there is a projection that the law will then become effective. If you have new construction, it's effective for you immediately. If you have an existing home, you will have up to 3 years to comply. Now, having said that, there's a lot of confusion about the idea, is it an ember resistant zone or is it a flammable ignition free zone? And there's been some good forward progress so that your 5-foot zone does not need to be a moonscape. Dante, can you address that a little?
Yes. So sitting in on the most recent California Board of Forestry meeting, there were talks about not a full moonscape within zone 0 and allowing some vegetation. However, the vegetation has to remain within pots. The pots cannot exceed more than 5 gallons in terms of size and weight. And then also the vegetation that is within the pots has to be able to be moved on either a red flag warning day or a high fire severity day. Also the height of the vegetation within the pots that they're currently allowing, and this is going to be going into effect within the new law, the height that they're allowing in terms of height has to be no more than, I believe, 3 feet tall, and the spacing between has to be at least 1.5 times the height of each plant. So if you have a plant that is, for example, 1 foot tall, the spacing has to be 1.5 feet before your next potted plant.
Yes,
So
yes. But they're missing the point. I mean, I bought this house in 1987, and the trees that were here are still here. They're older than me, and I'm 70 years old. And to take out those trees, I have then no privacy because people have built McMansions all around me, and they can literally see into my shower when my child was bathing. She's taking a shower and she hears all these men talking, and they're all on the balcony of the house they're building staring at her. And also, it's hot where I live, extremely hot. I need those trees for shade.
Trees,
I
trees do
understand,
not need to be removed. It depends
but
on the tree. It depends on what's going on. And remember, the law is not finalized yet, but
and
it's very clear that people will not have to remove all of their trees. They will
and
not
if
have
I
to.
may, I think I don't know how you pick and choose. There is you cite people, but I go around the neighborhood and there are literally pine trees that are 80, 100 feet tall, full of dead wood.
Yeah.
If there's ever a fire, we're dead in this neighborhood, and they're not cited for that. I don't understand how the fire department picks and chooses what is considered bad, and then you see something with a tree full of dead wood, this is allowed to continue. I don't understand how you do this. Is there some kind of book that says this is good, this is bad? Because it doesn't make sense. It seems to be very willy-nilly.
Well, I think you've got a very good point there. And I don't think that it's willy-nilly. I think that fire departments are very good at reacting. They're not necessarily good at being proactive. And one of the big challenges here is that when there's so many things going on, and in particular in Los Angeles as a follow-up to the January fires, the Fire Prevention Bureau is scrambling to figure out how they can manage and what they can do to be better. And they're missing things. And so that's why you got a letter that said, oh, everything's got to go. And then a couple of us, myself included, spoke to the fire marshal's office and said, wait, those things aren't in effect yet. And so then you got another letter saying, oh, okay, we were premature. So there's a lot of reaction going on.
Yes.
And I would think that until we have an actual well-defined law that we all advocate for the things that we think are important and that we do the common sense things. Don't stack wood up against your house. If you've got cracks in the foundation, fill them. If you've got a gap in your garage door, make sure that you seal it properly. If you've got rain gutters, make sure they're not full of leaves or detritus. Those don't cost a lot of money and they're going to help protect your home. As far as the major things that you're talking about, I would have some patience related to that. My concern is not what the fire department says. My concern and our entire team's concern is not what the law will be or what the state will say. One thing that I should note, CAL FIRE has no final say. It's the Board of Forestry. So CAL FIRE is not someone that we should look to as like it's their fault for whatever may occur. The Board of Forestry is the final determinant there for the governor. But what I would tell you that worries us more than anything else, hang on, Dr. Williams, what concerns us more than anything is how the insurance industry is going to react to their perception of what Zone 0, 1, and 2 is all about.
Okay,
So
thank you.
there's more to discuss, and obviously we could spend the whole evening talking about it, but I would tell you not to panic. Take your time, and I would tell you, go to wildfirela.org/letter. Read the letter that we've sent not only to the Board of Fire Commissioners, but to the governor himself, to our state senators, to the fire marshal in LA, to the fire chiefs in LA City and LA County. I mean, we're actively pushing to support you and your neighbors.
Yes, no, I saw the letter. I did, which is why I found out about this meeting tonight.
Okay, good.
But this is there going to be a meeting on this new law coming up and what people are going to be able to do within a time frame?
In August, our August meeting.
August? Okay, thank you.
Well, let's go with Lisa, Cindy, Frank, and then Dr. Williams will go to you, just kind of going in order of the hands raised. Lisa?
I wanted to ask what the three main ignition points. So what are the three main areas that are the most ignitable that can for house-to-house transmission.
Are you talking about the three most vulnerable components of a house? What are you talking about specifically?
Right. Like how does a fire generally start when it ignites a house?
So there's three. The three is a good number. We often talk in threes. Rarely, unless you're in an urban fire, rarely does a home burn from immediate impingement of actual flame. What typically will ignite a home are embers. And a lot of the testing that's gone on recently has been about organic embers. That means embers from brush or from branches or from leaves. We're concerned because there's also an ember cast that comes from plastic and that comes from structures themselves. Those embers are actually microscopic in size, but they're still flammable. So there's a whole series of issues to be concerned about. But what you need to do overall is create a barrier that prevents embers from attaching themselves into places where they can hide, snuggle, get comfortable, and then ignite. The second way that homes will burn is as a result of radiant heat. If you don't have dual paned windows, then radiant heat can break a single pane glass. When that happens, it invites embers directly into the home, and then the home burns from the inside out. And the final way in which homes often burn is because of what's next to them. And one of the challenges related to this overall zone zero issue is what we call a setback, which is the space between structures. So if you're in Northern California, you've got 20, 30, 40 feet of setback between homes, you actually have a lot of separation capability. But if we're looking at the Hollywood Hills, if we're looking at other places in Southern California where the setback is only 5 feet, then if your neighbors don't take the actions that you take, your home is still under threat. So we're very concerned about these things, and we're fighting hard to make sure that, we're not going to eliminate wildfires. But we can try and reduce the rate of spread, and we can try and make sure that we come up with strategies that reduce the damage that they create. One of the really important factors that AF31 and MFire technologies offer, as well as others, is that they reduce ignitability around a home. And what that does, most importantly, is it slows the spread of fire. It's not going to eliminate the spread of fire, but hopefully it will slow the spread so that firefighters will have an opportunity to deploy, to anchor, and to take suppression actions that will save homes. So I don't want to get into too much detail other than that.
I was kind of looking for a simpler answer than that. Like, does it start from the roof? Does it start from the side? I was kind of looking for a simpler answer.
It
I feel
doesn't.
like it's like really abstract.
It could start anywhere. It's not just your roof. It's any place where embers can find a place to attach themselves.
Okay.
Remember, if you have a Class A roof, embers can land all over the roof and the house won't burn.
Okay, and Class A is what? Metal?
Metal is certainly that. Certain tiles, stone, concrete. There's many types of things. You can Google Class A roof and you'll get a long list of what's included. All right, Dante, let's move on.
Lisa, if you have any more questions, I'm more than happy to discuss this offline as well. I'll put my email in the chat. Cindy. Cindy Bloom. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Sorry about that. Hi, Cindy here. Great letter you guys wrote. I really appreciate it. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Okay, great. So my neighbor, I'm kind of asking this on behalf of her. She has a structure. It's a horse stable corral. So technically it's a structure. However, it is made entirely out of metal. Would that be exempt from the zone zero requirements?
Are you
No,
saying that structure is within 5 feet of a home?
No, it's a structure in the backyard, so it's a structure. Would it be subject to the zone zero requirements, even if the structure is completely made of metal? It's corrugated sheet metal. It's got, the horse corral things made out of metal.
So
It's an
for-
outbuilding.
Okay, so so that would be exempt from the zone zero requirements.
No, I would not.
no,
Well, even if it's made out of metal, it can't burn.
any structure on a property, even if it's detached from the home, such as an outbuilding or that structure that is full metal, is subject to zone zero, even if it's made out of non-combustible material.
Oh my God. Okay, that's overreach. I'm sorry. Okay, all right, thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Frank,
It's good to see you,
Hey.
Frank.
Hey, good to see you too. Pat Bates, thank you for bringing up 4th of July. And I would like to, besides just being a vigilante and calling in to the appropriate spot if I see fireworks, is there anything that concerned Firewise citizens can do to help out on 4th of July? Because I would enjoy that kind of activity a lot more than just sitting back and crossing my fingers and hoping that things don't get out of hand.
So our organization is kind of the hub for fireworks mitigation in Los Angeles. We coordinate LA City Fire, LAPD, Animal Services, and all the other agencies relative to this issue. We've been doing it for a decade, and we've made some progress, but it's still a completely out of control kind of an issue. And there are some factors that make it out of control. Number one, a lack of money for enforcement. Number two, a lack of money for destruction of confiscated fireworks. Number three, a lack of revenue related to enforcement. If we're going to make a difference in Los Angeles, what we need to do is, this is my opinion, it's not necessarily, earth science fact, but based on our experience and everything, if we're going to make a difference, we need to increase the fines that are applied. In the city of Los Angeles, if you have under 500 pounds of fireworks, think about that, 500 pounds, it's a $1,000 misdemeanor. If you're selling them or you transfer them across state lines, it becomes a felony. One of the most active places for the sale of fireworks is just across the state line in Nevada. And ATF and other folks have been working diligently to make felony arrests. This year, all the ATF agents are no longer working, so they don't have anybody for this enforcement anymore. So that's part of the federal workforce reduction activities that are taking place. In Pasadena, the maximum fine is $50,000. And they do not have a fireworks problem in Pasadena. So that's anecdotal, but to me, it means that, if you make the fine stiff enough, then people are not going to want to spend that money. You can also, Frank, and you can get this through our website, there is an app. You go to mysafela.org, click on fireworks, and there is an app called FX Reporter for your phone, and you can then report any fireworks that you see taking place. It doesn't have to be on the 4th, it could be any time. And both LAPD and LA City Fire have got a map display, and every time someone reports it, it shows up on that map. So they can see where fireworks are concentrated, and they can then make determinations either about overtime or about assigning a radio car to that area. Keep in mind that with current laws, our current laws in Southern California, LAPD cannot affect a citation or an arrest unless they actually see the fireworks being discharged. So if they turn onto a street that's full of smoke and there's 3 guys standing in the middle of the street with lighters and there's all kinds of fireworks displays, but they don't see them light anything, they can't do anything. So increasing the fines, in my judgment, and I would encourage everyone to write to your city council office and tell them how much you would support them in the next election if they were able to raise the fines as it relates to fireworks, because that's going to be the silver bullet, is if it's too expensive for people.
Yeah, point taken. Does it automatically become a red flag day to get people off the streets on the tight winding roads and that type of thing?
You brought up a good point, which is there's 2 kinds of red flags in Los Angeles. There's the National Weather Service's red flag warning, which is a humidity, wind, and temperature warning. And then there is the city's red flag parking warning. So red flag parking is designed for tight, narrow roads to be clear so that apparatus can get up into those hillsides if there is a fire. They are
Yeah.
rarely issued. We've had more this year than we typically have, but usually it's only once or twice a year, whereas there's 20 to 30 red flag days from the National Service every year. I hope that helps.
It does. Yeah, my whole neighborhood is a red flag zone. And so it would, I think, have all of us resting easy if we knew that the streets were clear on a day like 4th of July when it could get hairy.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Williams, you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Tom, am I coming through?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
you're a little shallow
Okay.
in volume.
Okay, I'll get closer. The basic element for me is I live 5 miles from City Hall. And I say I have 14 acres of open space, of property next to me on a hill, 200-foot reach. So the problem is there's no enforcement of the current brush clearance requirements. The 3 inches of ground cover and 6 feet of clearance. Nothing is done. They started it right now, and they did maybe a tenth of an acre of brush clearance on 14 on a hill slope. And I say I will be complaining about it starting July 1, which is the new date for the review of it. And last time I had 5 complaints into LA brush clearance. And I finally got an inspector out and he said, well, don't worry about it. An inspector on site looking at 6 feet of grass and weeds and nothing was done. So it's really not the issue as to the ordinances. It's a matter of the money and character to enforce the ordinances that we have right now. 3 inches of ground cover. Okay, that will stop a lot of fires. And I say brush clearance. That'll stop a lot of related brush fires getting into the high brush. But it's basically a problem that you got the ordinances on hand. And I don't know what they did with the Palisades because the county of Los Angeles has exactly the same brush clearance ordinance and they don't enforce them. And the city of LA does not enforce the brush clearance requirements. So it's a matter as to, I'm setting it up right now so that if there is a brush fire, we will sue the city of Los Angeles for all damages because they failed to enforce the requirements of the ordinances. So that's all.
Well, thank you,
Bye.
Dr. Williams. There's actually a lot more to it than what you just shared. What you just shared is important, but once again, money is one of the critical issues.
Money.
And the Los Angeles City Fire Department does actively enforce brush clearance on personal property for people that own personal parcels. Where it falls apart is land outside of those personal properties, adjacent land. Who owns the land? Is it owned by the city? Is it owned by the state? Is it owned by the Santa Monica Conservancy? Who owns the land? And that's where it becomes extremely difficult. I would also note there's
14 acres owned by a private individual, and we plan to sue them too if
That's
it
fine.
ignites.
You are totally within your rights to do that.
I know.
Keep in
Thank
mind that there's 254,000 parcels in the city of Los Angeles.
Yes.
There are only 12 brush fire inspectors, and they have 60 days to inspect all of them. So it's a daunting problem, and it's one that we're actually shocked by it, but that's how it is.
Google Earth Pro documents the brush. Clearing to 3 inches it's enough to show up even on satellite images. So it's a matter of not compliant. And my target for this year is 100 parcels of more than 10,000 square feet each in 90032.
Okay, we'll
So
take.
there's a lot more elsewhere. Thank you.
Lisa put something in the text quote, which I want to address. Goats are a terrific way to eliminate brush, but they are very expensive. In fact, in Glendale, they have done this quite often. I seem to remember that clearing just one canyon area was like 60, 70,000 bucks. Is that right, Chief?
Absolutely. They are very expensive.
It's a very expensive thing to
Why
do.
are these so expensive?
Well, that's
They're
because
goats.
and they're becoming more expensive because they're more in demand and there's fewer of them. By the way, you also noted a $1 billion deficit. We do not have that. The budget is balanced. There's no deficit at all. It's just so you know.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of cuts and now it's balanced, but we're going to have ongoing deficits. I mean, it's not like we're not going to have a deficit next year. More than likely, we're going to have an insane deficit next year.
No argument. And the LA City Fire Department's budget was cut by $32 million. So, and 650 law enforcement positions, civilian positions were eliminated and or scheduled to be eliminated, and those positions will be filled with uniformed officers, so that'll be fewer officers on the street. So there's all kinds of challenges in the city, but that doesn't mean that we're not trying to find solutions. The reason we have the Regional Fire Safe Council, the reason you have MySafe LA, the reason that we're doing the work that we're doing. Remember, we take not $1 from the fire department. We are funded through grants from the state, the federal government, and from foundations. And we provide about $1 million in additional services to the city. Not to mention, we also are the fire council for all of Riverside County, and we work with fire departments across the state. So our function overall is to represent all of you to help you become more resilient. That's what we're here for, and we hope we can remain helpful to you. So we got time for one more question, if someone has it, and then we're going to say goodnight to everyone. One more question, anyone, or are we good?
Looks like we're good.
Okay. Once again, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. We've managed to do this in under 90 minutes, which is always our objective. I hope it was interesting for you, and have a safe 4th of July. And for those of you that can, come and see us on Sunday. It'll be fun. And we look forward to seeing as many of you as we can. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.